And this just gets more a bit to the Houthis and this accusation that we're hearing over and over again from Lindsey Graham and other hawks. But I guess it's becoming conventional wisdom because so much of the media, they're completely out to lunch and don't know much about. Well, if anything, I've actually seen segments on television news where they report on, well, who are the Houthis anyway? And they get basically to where they take over with Saleh. They take power in Sana'a at the end of 2014. And then they skip a few things, and well, now they're attacking our ships because they're aligned with Iran, and that's just what terrorists do. And Iran is the leading state sponsor of terror. They literally will skip over the entire war from 2015, from March of 2015 until the ceasefire in April of 2022. They will skip over the entire. I've seen this on, it was Fox Business, in fact, and so now this is interesting because this is from U.S. intelligence. Officials and sources speaking to the Times. Huge article in the Times. David Sanger, I think, has the first byline of all people. But this is they're saying that Iran is not dictating the Houthis' actions. Okay, so and this article is from the Cradle where they're summarizing it. But U.S. intel agencies have determined that Ansarallah, the Houthis, is a, quote, independent movement, does not take orders from Iran. And this is, again, the Times citing officials as saying in a report on January 14th. So U.S. officials said Friday, according to the New York Times, quote, American spy agencies believe that the Houthis are an independent organization and Iran is not dictating their day-to-day operations. There is no direct evidence that senior Iranian leaders, either the commander of the elite Quds Force or the supreme leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, ordered the recent Houthi attacks on ships in the Red Sea, the report adds. The White House does claim, however, to have evidence that Tehran is providing weapons to the Ansarallah resistance movement, which is militarily aligned with the armed forces of Yemen's Sana'a government. That evidence is never particularly compelling, especially early on in the war. Gareth Porter did some great work debunking a lot of these claims, the great investigative reporter. Now, I think it's likely that, as Nasser Arabi was saying years ago, that, well, what do they think? We don't have email? Meaning that you can get the Houthis can get intelligence assistance or just, assistance in building their drone systems and their missile systems by talking to Iranian military experts. It doesn't mean that they're being armed by Iran. And how are they going to get through the U.S. Navy and Saudi naval blockade in the first place that was starving hundreds of thousands of children to death? This is it was always kind of absurd to suggest that Iran was arming the Houthis the whole time. Yemen is flush with weapons from the old Soviet Union, the American government. I mean, we were arming Saleh and his successor, Mansour Hadi, these U.S.-backed and Saudi-backed puppets for the longest time, in arming them to the teeth, and they were using them to go to war with the Houthis, and they kept losing. There's no shortage of weapons for the Houthis to be using right now for all these different operations against American and Israeli shipping alone, let alone, if it does start up again, to go back to hitting Iran, Saudi oil facilities and other key targets like that. But so they claim they have evidence. Now, despite the fact for 9 years, Yemen has been under this tight blockade, as I said, by a U.S.-backed Arab coalition headed by Riyadh, as well as the fact that its main port and airport remain besieged. And of course, now the U.S. is bombing the airport and Hodeidah, the main port for North Yemen, where the Houthis hold power. And that's where 70 to 80% of the population lives. So the Houthis appear able to make many of their own weapons, including drones assembled from parts obtained from China and other suppliers, the report goes on to say. Now, the Sana'a government is also in possession of a significant amount of Soviet-era weapons. Western media has long labeled Ansarallah an Iranian proxy that receives directives from the Islamic Republic. Western media push similar ideas about Hezbollah and the Iraqi resistance. In response to such claims, for what it's worth, Hezbollah leader Hassan Nasrallah said in a speech on January 3rd that in the axis of resistance, no party dictates to another, and each individual party makes its decisions in a manner consistent with the strategic vision and interest of its country. There are no slaves in the axis. There are only proud free men who create victories for their people, Nasrallah added. Washington recently carried out a series of violent attacks on several provinces in Yemen in response to Ansarallah's maritime blockade on Israeli shipping in the Red Sea. The Houthis and Sanaa's armed forces, however, have vowed to continue their operations. Of course, declaring that they will not back down in the face of American military power. And so it's important to get that out there, that American officials are admitting that this rhetoric we're hearing from all of our representatives in Congress and in the Senate, virtually, this argument that the Houthis are Iranian cat's paws, is just simply not true. And that you can't just wish away American culpability and responsibility for this international crisis or the war on Gaza by just crying about Iran and spouting off slogans that are in next to the bullet points in their little sheet that they get from whatever think tank is sending them the talking points that week. So anyway, it's I'm glad to see that at least they're admitting that.